Rent didn't rise because you stopped working hard. It rose because you lost the ability to leave. That's the shift most people never see. In a normal market, high prices push people out. Demand cools. Sellers compete. Prices ease. Rent doesn't do that anymore because for millions of Americans, there is no exit. And once that changed, everything else followed. For a long time, renting was temporary. You rented while you saved. You rented while you moved. You rented on the way to something else. That mattered because landlords knew tenants could leave. If rents rose too fast, people bought. If conditions worsened, demand softened. Exit pressure kept rent loosely tied to income. That feedback loop is gone. Here's where it broke. When interest rates jumped, millions of people didn't disappear from the housing market. They failed the buying math and landed in rentals. At the same time, supply barely moved. Zoning stayed tight. Construction lagged. Existing homeowners stayed put. Demand didn't fall, it stacked. This wasn't just a housing shortage. It was a shortage of exits. And once renters couldn't leave, rent stopped behaving like a normal price. This was the structural shift. Rent became a captive market. A captive market is simple. It's when customers can't walk away, even when prices rise. Once exit disappears, prices stop responding to income and start responding to tolerance. If people stay, prices hold. If they stay again, prices reset higher. That's not personal. That's how pricing power works. This is why rent outpaced wages. Wages move slowly, one employer and one review at a time. Rent resets quickly, across buildings and across entire cities. Over the past few years, average rents rose far faster than typical annual pay increases, which for many workers still sit in the low single digits. So even people with stable jobs and regular raises stopped feeling like they were moving forward. People describe it the same way everywhere. I got a raise and my landlord took all of it. That isn't a coincidence. It's what happens when housing costs are no longer anchored to wage growth. It also explains a frustration people keep voicing. Why rent keeps rising even when inflation cools. Gas prices move. Goods stabilize. Demand adjusts. Rent doesn't. Prices only come down when demand leaves and renters can't leave. Once a higher rent clears, it becomes the new baseline. Not a spike. A reset. That's why rent feels permanent, even when other costs fluctuate. Now add institutions. Large landlords didn't create this captive market. They optimized it. Once exit pressure was gone, rent became about protecting yield rather than matching local incomes. The outcome is simple. Higher rents stay locked in once the system allows them, because nothing forces them back down. At this point, people assume there's still an escape. Just move. That used to work. You could move farther out, downsize, or switch neighborhoods. Now pricing pressure spreads. Everywhere feels expensive, even older units in worse locations. And moving itself is costly. Deposits, application fees, time off work, and the risk that the next place will raise rent again anyway. So the last practical exit closes. People aren't just rent-burdened. They're geographically trapped. This is why rent starts to feel like a hidden tax. Unlike taxes, there's no cap and no public debate. And the burden falls on the people least able to absorb it. That's not ideology. It's structure. The real damage shows up over time. When you can't lock housing costs, you can't plan. Every lease renewal is a cliff. You don't know next year's number. You can't confidently commit to long-term decisions. Saving slows. Emergency buffers disappear. Family plans pause. Job mobility shrinks. People stay put, not because it's optimal, but because uncertainty feels riskier than stagnation. That's not just stress, that's systemic insecurity. And here's the loop that keeps it going. High rent prevents saving. Without savings, buying stays out of reach. Without buying, renters stay captive. The system reinforces itself year after year. Rent stops being a phase. It becomes a holding pattern. Not because people failed, because exits were removed. So when rent eats your raise, when half your income goes to housing, when prices never seem to come back down, you're not imagining it. Rent didn't outpace wages by accident. It outpaced wages because pricing power shifted quietly once renters lost the ability to leave. Thanks for watching. If you want to understand the systems shaping your money and your future, subscribe.